ṣe gbàgbé ara yìí kí a ronú Yorùbá kọ́kọ́ kí a ronú Yorùbá kọ́kọ́. Ilé wa sunkún lábẹ́ ìrìn, àwọn bàbá wa wọ́n wà lókè, wọ́n filẹ̀ yìí sí ọwọ́ wa, ṣùgbọ́n a gbàgbé ohun tí wọ́n sọ. À ń jagun ara wa lójú ọ̀nà, à ń ta ìtàn wa lọ́wọ́. Bí a kò bá rántí ibi tá a ti ń bọ̀, báwo la ṣe máa mọ ibi tá a lọ? Ẹ̀jẹ̀ àwọn bàbá ṣì ń pè wá nínú afẹ́fẹ́ ilẹ̀ Yorùbá. Ohùn ilẹ̀ ń ké pé má ṣe gbàgbé ẹni tí ó jẹ́. Kí a ronú Yorùbá kọ́kọ́, kí a gbé ilẹ̀ wa gọ̀. Kí a ronú Yorùbá kọ́kọ́, kí a dá àṣà wa bọ̀. Kí a ronú Yorùbá kọ́kọ́, kí a mọ ara wa dáadáa. Kí a ronú Yorùbá kọ́kọ́, kí a pa ìtàn wa kọ́. Òrìṣà ilé ń wọ́ wá lọ́dọọdún, àwọn bàbá ń dúró dè wá. Ilẹ̀ tí a jogún kì í ṣe títà, ìrántí ń bọ̀ wá. Ọmọ Yorùbá jí kúrò nínú oorun, àkókò ti dé báyìí. Tí a bá fẹ́ ọjọ́ ọ̀la rere, a gbọ́dọ̀ rántí ara wa. Ilẹ̀ ìsọ̀rọ̀ nínú àlá wa, ìran wa ń pè wá padà. Ohùn nínú kébé, má ṣe gbàgbé ìtàn rẹ̀.
Okay, good evening, everybody. You are welcome to the maiden edition of Yoruba nationalism series. Today being the 11th day of April 2026. My name is Abiodun Bakare. I am the host tonight. Good evening to everybody. Tonight we confront a question Nigeria can no longer postpone. Across this country called Nigeria, insecurity has moved beyond headlines. It is now a lived reality. It's a reality we live daily, from highways to farmlands, from rural communities to major cities. Nigerians are asking one urgent question: who is truly in control of this country? For years, we have pursued reforms, new service chiefs, new policies, new strategies, yet insecurity continues to evolve faster than the system designed to stop it. So we must go deeper. Is Nigeria's problem one of the performance, requiring better execution and reformation? Or is it one of structure, demanding a more fundamental reset? history gives us something to reflect on. In the First Republic, Nigeria operated a regional system where regions had significant control over their security, resources, and development priorities. While not perfect, there was a clearer sense of responsibility and accountability at the regional level. Today, that structure is gone, replaced by a highly centralized system where security is controlled from the center, often far removed from local realities. So we ask, has centralization weakened Nigeria's ability to secure itself? Would a return to a stronger regional control improve our security outcomes, or will it deepen divisions? Tonight's conversation is not just theoretical, it's about survival, it's about governance, it's about the future of over 200 million people, and more importantly, what must change and who will drive that change. We'll begin tonight. I will be introducing to us the president of TYF, Mr. Bolarinwa Oladimeji, who will be speaking to us tonight. And with me, I'll be having Madam Ajoke from Diaspora also joining us tonight. I will first of all introduce Madam Ajoke. Can you please say hello to our teaming viewers and listeners all over the world? I will first of all introduce Madam Ajoke. Can you please say hello to...
Thank you so much for joining us again today, as usual. Am I audible?
Yes, we hear you.
Okay, thank you so much for joining us tonight again, as usual. Without you, there is no TYF. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Ẹ ṣe gan ni àwọn tí ẹgbẹ́ Yorùbá jù mí lọ́n tèmi èmi kàn ń sọ òyìnbó lọ pẹ̀rẹ̀rẹ̀ bí ọ̀pẹ́ rẹ̀ ni ẹ ṣe gan ni thank you very much. Ìgbìyànjú tí yẹn ó ní agbára ju tèmi lọ ẹ ṣe gan ni gbẹ́yìn tẹ́ ń gbọ́ wa ẹ ṣe gan ni. This program is hosted by Think Yoruba First. It's our own body, it's our own system tá set up. Kì í ṣe ti ẹlòmíì gbogbo wa náà lájọ ni Think Yoruba First. I will now bring up Mr. Bolarinwa, our own president, to say good evening to you all. Ààrẹ, please.
Ẹ káalẹ́ gbogbo lé o, mo kí wa ní orúkọ Olódùmarè. I greet us all in the name of the ancient. I'm so grateful to the job Baba Bakare Abiodun àti ìyá wa Madam Ajoke àti Madam Ajoke tó wà lÉkòó náà, and the entire production crew of Yoruba Nationalism series. May Almighty God continue to be with us and continue to bless us. Tonight is going to be another wonderful night. Tonight is going to be another glorious night where we are going to be speaking about a very important topic, which is Reformation versus Revolution. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Gbogbo ẹ̀yin tẹ́ bá wa di medium wa mú gbogbo social media wa Mr. Ajolomi mo kí yín àwọn arábìnrin àwọn secretary general gbogbogbò tó wá lè o ẹ ṣé gan ni ẹ̀yin tí wà lórí Facebook náà àkíyín ẹ ṣeun ẹ̀yin tí wà lórí YouTube àdúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ yín tẹ́ bá di òpó lọ́hùn mú ẹ̀yin náà tẹ́ tí bá di TikTok mú tẹ́ jẹ́ kí ó ṣubú àdúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ yín ẹ ṣé gan ni gbé tẹ́ tí wà lórí space ní àṣálẹ́ ẹjọ́ mo bẹ̀ yín ní ẹ̀bẹ̀ kan ẹ bá wa retweet space yẹn jọ as you are listening kindly retweet the space. It will help us get more algorithm presence and recognition. Ẹ ṣeun gan ni mo dúpẹ́. Ààrẹ ní àṣálẹ́ yìí àwọn ọ̀rọ̀ tá a máa sọ ó máa pín sí ìpele bíi márùn-ún mẹ́fà. We'll set our context tonight. We'll look at how we can diagnose the root cause of all these problems. We'll look at the Reformation argument. Do we need a Reformation or total revolution? We'll talk about also the revolution argument. Then we'll look at the middle ground. Come on, fi sọ́ọ̀sì jì, come on, nílùú Amẹ́ríkà wọn pè ní is that you are left or right? Àwọn kan tá à ń pè ní àárín agbedeméjì ayé wọn sí àti ọ̀run, wọn ò fi sí ọ̀tún jù, wọn ò fi sí sósì jù. Irú ẹ̀yẹn ni Yorùbá, àwọn Yorùbá máa sọ pé aṣọ̀tún má ṣòsì, má ṣọ̀tún má ṣòsì ni àwọn tí kì í ba bì kan jẹ́. Má bínú ẹ̀yin bàbá wa àti ìyá wa tẹ́ ń gbọ́ mi tí n bá ṣe òwe yẹn pa. Then we'll now look at how our audience and our callers will come in to give us their views and questions and their own take on what we're talking about tonight. Now, in setting our context, when we say insecurity in Nigeria, what are we really describing? Is it the crime, insurgency, is it a state failure, or all of the above? And also, at what point does insecurity becomes a systemic collapse, not just a security challenge? And very funny, has Nigeria crossed that threshold already? Or àṣẹ leni? Or àti kọjá? Thank you, Are. You have the mic.
Thank you so much. Once again, I greet everybody in the name of Oladimeji. Tonight, the question is, what kind of insecurity are we discussing? We are actually discussing all forms of insecurity, whether kidnapping, whether stealing, armed robbery, terrorism, one way or the other. Nigeria is suffering from a systemic failure because of the way the country is structured. A country like Nigeria is a multinational country. A country like Nigeria is like a multinational corporation. And we should not deceive ourselves. The country is, when I say it's a multinational corporation, it was formed by a multinational corporation, which is the Royal Niger Company, which later became Unilever. So because Nigeria is a multinational company, and the way it was forged, the way it was created, that means it's a multiracial, multinational country. So where we got it all wrong was to continue the colonial structure of security and the colonial structure of governance. Nigeria is a creation of the British Empire. And the British Empire was a scenario and a situation where a minority English ethnicity was basically controlling the major 1/4 of the world. So in that kind of a situation, security, governance, economics, culture, everything that pertains the rulers and the ruled was centralized. So Nigeria has a centralized security system. It has a centralized governance structure, which was why one of the things Awolowo argued against, that you cannot have a country like Nigeria that is so diverse, multi-civilization, and you are not going to have a multi-tiered security structure or multi-tiered policing structure. In any multi-ethnic country, in any multi-racial country, you must have a form of decentralized system of governance. And when you talk about part of governance is policing. When you talk about part of governance is what you have. This system of governance. You have to look at all these situations. So Nigeria is suffering from a systemic failure. And you asked, have we actually crossed the threshold? Let's just imagine and tell ourselves this truth. If Nigeria was basically northern Nigeria, how exactly is this country going to look like? Remove the southwest, remove the south-south, remove Benue, remove Plateau, remove even some part of Taraba, and remove some states in the southeast. and we are left with the Northwest, we are left with the Northeast, and we are left with some of the North Central states like Niger State. How exactly is Nigeria going to be? We are going to be one of the most, we are going to be on the level of Somalia. But the way, fortunately for Nigeria, Nigeria has the Southwest and the South-South. And if you also look at what is happening in Nigeria, Nigeria is suffering a very, very big security challenge. And Nigeria is technically in a state of war. We are at war. We are fighting. We are not fighting a ragtag group. We are fighting a well-organized militia that is ideologically driven, that are well-funded from outside Nigeria, and with millions of sympathizers amongst fellow Nigerians, that has made almost the war of terrorism to almost become unwinnable. So because you have this situation of things, this is one of the reasons why Nigeria, as we are locked down in this war of attrition. So I'm going to stop here. So yeah, do you still have any? Yeah, I think I answered the question.
Okay, yes. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Now, we want to diagnose the root cause of this. Is insecurity primarily driven by poverty and unemployment, or by government failure?
Insecurity. It is true. Those are some of the factors that actually makes people insecure.
Okay.
But the reality is that that drives insecurity, because when there's poverty, there's hopelessness, people are easily lured into crime. Just like the way people were easily lured into crime in the northern part of Nigeria, where you are going to see radical clerics promising people paradise and luring them with 1,000 naira, 10,000 naira, 20,000 naira, with cheap money, with easy money, but money that it absolutely cannot get a human being by in 1 or 2 days, and people go ahead to blow up themselves. It's poverty. And one of the issues where you are going to have poverty, multidimensional poverty at the large scale in some parts of Nigeria, is because when people are poor, it's very easy to control them. When people are poor, it is very, very easy to subjugate them. When people are poor, it is very, very easy to manipulate them. When people are poor, you can easily rule them for the next 200, 300 years. So poverty, having a kind of a caste society, is extremely is critical. It's critical for the ruling elites to continue to control the people that are being ruled. So yeah.
Thank you very much. I have lived in several countries, but the way I see my country, Nigeria, is totally different. Tá bá ń sọ̀rọ̀ nípa ẹ̀sìn Kìrìsìtẹ́nì, mi ò rí ibi tí Kìrìsìtẹ́nì ní ìlú ọba sọ pé ní àárọ̀ kùtù Monday àbí ọjọ́ ajé, ọjọ́ ìṣẹ́gun àbí ọjọ́rú àbí ọjọ́bọ̀ tá máa jí lọ sí ṣọ́ọ̀ṣì nígbà gbogbo ayé ń lé owó kiri. Àbí ìgbà ìpọ́n tẹ́ pé gbogbo ká lọ tẹra mọ́ṣẹ́, tá a pa lọ ń gbàdúrà, tá a fi ohun tẹ́ ká máa ṣe sílẹ̀. Ó máa ń yà mí lẹ́nu pé nígbà táwa tá ń gbé globally, just like you, mi rò pé ìgbà kan wà tí ẹ máa rí òyìnbó tá sọ pé pẹ́pẹ́sẹ́ o, you have to fall down and die. I bind you, àìṣe kíní kankan. Òyìnbó òun gbogbo wọ̀nyẹn, wọ́n ń lọ sí ilé ìjọsìn gan, wọn mi pọ́n ìwọ̀nba ló máa ń lọ. Ṣùgbọ́n nínú ọkàn wọn, ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ wọn ẹ̀rí ìfẹ́. Ẹni tí ò lọ ṣọ́ọ̀ṣì mọ́ tẹ́ bá rí, kí ló tó wá ṣọ́ọ̀ṣì? Torí pé ọ̀dọ́ yín yẹn sọ pé ká máa gbé bọ́dì fún àwọn ní ọkùnrin nífẹ̀ẹ́ ọkùnrin, obìnrin nífẹ̀ẹ́ obìnrin. Èmi dé láìkì kan báyìí, mi ò ń ṣe, ṣùgbọ́n kan rí pé after all, Ọlọ́run náà ló dá wọn, pé ká máa kórìíra wọn. tí ó ti bẹ́ẹ̀ náà lọ ṣọ́ọ̀ṣì mọ́ náà lọ sí Ọlọ́run mọ́ ṣùgbọ́n nínú ìwà àti ìṣe ẹ ṣe rí pé ìfẹ́ wà ń bẹ àríyìnbá ẹ káàárọ̀ ẹ káàsán ẹ káalẹ́ o àwọn yín kọ́ kíníkan èmi ò rí nǹkan báyìí ní ọ̀rẹ́ tiwa níta tí pé à ń pe Ọlọ́run ní ojoojúmọ́. Why will we buy land and put a massive structure for people to go to church?
Thank you.
There's no companies to get people employed or no factories.
Let me be very sincere with you, sir.
Okay.
It is not the job of the church and the mosque to provide jobs.
Okay.
It is not the job of the church and the mosque and the traditional religious adherents to provide jobs and solve the problem of the government. The churches are not controlling the mineral resources. The churches are not controlling the oil and gas. The churches are not controlling the local government. The churches are not collecting taxes. So the mosques are also not doing this, are not controlling the oil and gas. The mosques are not controlling the mineral resources, the mosques are not controlling the dollars and euros and pounds that are coming from abroad. It is the government. So we first need to stop this blaming non-governmental organizations like the schools and the churches and the mosque for the failure of governance. That's number one. In fact, it is extremely dangerous for us to intertwine governance and religion. It is wrong for us to ask religious leaders to participate in politics. So one of the things when what happened during the European Revolution, Industrial Revolution, was the separation of the church from the state. So we need to separate the church from the state radically. So that's number one. That's number two, rather. Number three, you said the way people practice religion. Let me tell you the truth. Asians are very, very religious people. You see the way they take their Hindu so serious. You see the way the Japanese, the Buddhists, the Thais, the way they take their Buddhism so serious. Have you seen the way the Malaysians take religion so serious, the Indonesians so serious? But one way or the other, their country still developed. So what happened to the Black people, Africans, is that naturally we are extremely religious people. So that was why colonialism, you have to look at, that's why colonialism did a big damage to us. Because if we were still practicing our indigenous religion, we would still be as very, very radical about it as we are towards Christianity and Islam currently. So we have to separate the culture. There is a culture. The culture of the people determines how they perceive things. Haven't we observed that the vibrant churches abroad currently are controlled by Africans? I don't know church now.
Benny.
We go to churches than them. We go to mosques than them. There's a reason. Because that's our nature. That is the nature of Black people. And I'm going to give you a big free stance in our evolution as a people, especially Yoruba people. There is a kind of a social evolution of a people. We moved from the level of religion, from metaphysics. We have not been able, for instance, it is very, very easy for a Yoruba man. For in the olden days, we know it's in our religion, in the capacity of our mythology, that somebody can be in Ekiti and have the ability to conjure some things and be speaking and call somebody in America. That's like satellites. That's like Starlink. That's like a phone you can be able to call. So that is metaphysics. So we jumped. We did not evolve science properly. We did not domesticate that science. That is why we think the way we still think. Science has not been domesticated in Africa. Ever since colonialism broke apart our indigenous science, so we jumped straight into the European world using the phones, the technology brought by colonialism, but we've not been able to domesticate it. So we are still stuck in the kind of the psyche, the way the society functions of the science of the past, which is metaphysics. But you look at the Asians, they were able to domesticate the sciences that came into their society. That is why I said colonialism affected us in different ways. I'm going to give an example of the Japanese. When the Americans came into Japan, the Dutch came into Japan, and they were bringing guns, selling guns to the Japanese people. Japanese people took those guns and started producing their own guns locally. They domesticated it. And why were they able to do it? Because there was a culture of science. Unfortunately for them, that culture of science was not erased. One of the things that happened to the Yoruba people, because for culture of science to happen, there should have been a war. There needs to be a military industrial complex. The military industrial complex that developed in Yoruba land, especially during and after the Kiriji War, during that period of the 19th century, was totally erased by Britain. And I'm going to tell you why. How? One of the things we signed during the 1893 treaties, the treaty that was signed after the Kiriji War, was that total disarming of all the entire Yoruba city states. Everybody must give up their guns and ammunition. All blacksmiths that knew how to build guns, ammunition, spears must stop it. And instead of building weapons of war, they must start building just cutlasses and hoe for farming. So if you are caught producing machine guns, let me give you an instance. For especially this, there are historical examples for this. Some of the machine guns that the Ekiti Jesha Army, Confederate Army, got from Lagos, it was not the British that were servicing it. It was the local blacksmiths in Ekiti and Ijesha that were now servicing and providing parts for these guns. So they already knew how to create and build their own machine guns using local technology. So that was one of the things the British did. Everybody that knew these skills, if you are caught, either you are jailed or you are killed. That was one of the things they did in India. When the British, India was the second to third biggest economy in the 19th century, very prosperous. China was the first. The power base and the hegemony of the European powers was built on the destruction of Chinese and Indian economy. That's how they became a superpower. That's how they were able to create a unipolar world order, by destroying the economic power of the Indians and the British and the Chinese. So part of the things they did in India was that Indian silk makers with their looms, with their hands, were producing cheap embroideries that was now being sent into Europe. What did China do? In Britain do? Britain told them to stop, that they need to stop. If they don't stop, there will be penalties. Some of them did not stop. So all these killed they started cutting their hands and breaking their palms. And the multi-billion-dollar economy, as they compared to today's value, was totally erased by destroying those with those skills. So the same thing happened to us. I can go back into history again, because a lot of these things that people just talk about, it is not that we are inferior or something is wrong with us. It is because we've been socially engineered to be like this. We've been so unlucky. Many of the things that actually helped others to become superpowers, we fell into that trap and we never got out. For instance, the culture of university education was not a European concept in West Africa. The concept of university education, everybody learned, everybody copied it. While the university education was getting developed in Europe, in Morocco, in Central Asia, there was also universities in West Africa. There was University of Timbuktu. There was University of Jenne. There was University of Gao. And the level of the academic discipline that you had at the University of Timbuktu was at the same level you had at the University of Oxford in the 13th, 14th, 15th century. They were doing astronomy, they were doing surgery, they were studying medicine. Do you know what happened? Because that area became a threat, because this was the period. That is why it is very, very dangerous for any group of people not to be able to fight against stereotypes. This stereotyping Black people as slaves made us a target, that anything coming made by us against the Black people, an institutionalized ideology. What am I trying to say? So when Masa Musa was doing his thing, going on to Mali, spending gold, and all of a sudden, people were coming to Africa to come and study, West Africa to come and study. Universities, world-class professors were in West Africa. Then there was a problem. Because during this time was when Pope made a law and said that, gave a kind of a spiritual permission for Black people to be enslaved and sold to the New World. So when you are selling Black people as slaves, and Black people have been ordained to be sold as slaves, but all of a sudden they are building universities, it doesn't make sense. So what happened? The British monarchy sponsored the Kingdom of Morocco to come in and wage war against the Songhai Empire, which was controlling these universities. And the Songhai Empire was an empire that was built on gold. The economic power of the Songhai Empire was not on slaves, it was on gold, the gold mines. So in order to get these gold mines, a European power supported an Arab power in Northern Africa to come and destroy a black African power. So when they came, they said they want to take over the gold. So when they came into Songhai Empire, people don't know that there was a kind of a university in Kano. There was a university in Kano. The Kano that we now say we now categorize and equalize with Almanjiri. So you can understand that one event in 1 century, when they destroy, can destroy a generation for the next 400, 500 years. So and for you to be able to break that cycle of hopelessness, backwardness, and what we now see as over religiosity, you need to be able, it is just 1 or 2 generations that will change the course of history. So when they came into Songhai Empire, they not only seized the gold, they not only seized all these resources, they also took over. They took over and they captured all the professors in Songhai at the University of Timbuktu. You know, there's no database. These professors were the encyclopedias of this knowledge. They burnt a lot of manuscripts and captured a lot of these people, of these professors, and took them as slaves into Morocco and burnt many of the universities down. That was the end of the existence of scholarship. And the Songhai Empire, the technique of paper making, this paper that everybody now gets everywhere, was one of the most advanced technology of the time. Africa did not have its own paper making industry. So that is why you see that for many, many years, some of you that lived in the north, they still write on tablets, not papers. Even at some times, at a point in time, people were still writing in cuneiforms, in tablets, in stones. So they write on tablets, wali. They write on tablets because there was nothing to write upon. There was no local. So many of the papers you saw in Timbuktu was coming from the Ottoman Empire. So and Timbuktu, this area of Mali and now Burkina Faso, you can save a lot of, you can store a lot of papers because those places were not humid. Some paper you only jera. So they can be there for the next 1,000, 2,000 years. But you brought papers, you are bringing it to tropical areas. When rain falls, they will start spoiling. So that was how a lot of knowledge and manuscripts were lost. And we lost 200, 300 years of scholarship. So we're driven back into the Stone Age. Sorry to use that. That is why, if you look at how we behave, we believe in memorizing. So many of this memorization was to prevent knowledge from being lost. So some of the things we have like Ifa, these are geomancy. It was being studied at the University of Timbuktu. People were getting degrees 600, 700 years ago. So this issue of you seeing people putting on turban was their matriculation gown. And that was why many ancient African states accepted Islam. Because that version of Islam was the Islam that brought the education. It was similar to the golden age of Islam that was also destroyed by the Mongols in Baghdad. So,
Thank
So let me now really make my point very clear.
Okay.
We have a problem. We have a problem because Nigeria, the colonialism did not stop. The independence we got was for us to continue to live the colonial life. And part of the things, the element of colonialism was religion. Religion can do two things. You can use it to organize a revolution, or you can use it and it can be used to keep a people into docility. So that is why, for instance, you look at Christianity. What sort of Christianity are we practicing in sub-Saharan Africa? Is it the revolution? Is it the Christianity that the Americans, early founders of the American nation, was practicing, where they were saying, give me liberty or I die? Or the Christianity that says, when people cut off your head, continue to go and put your father's head? You ask yourself that question. It was if you look at America, for instance, let's go into the American history. When the Americans, we have this plantation slavery in America. The Americans were Christians. And it was through this Christian ideology that they were able to create ideology like the Manifest Destiny. The Manifest Destiny was a destiny of supremacy of the white class, where they believe they have the divine mandate to spread and expand from the Atlantic on the East Coast to the Pacific on the West Coast. Christianity Colonial, that the East-Western axis, which was the land of the indigenous people in Oklahoma and Co., belonged to them, that God has given them. And they got it by waging war against the indigenous people, like against the Kumachis, and they got their land. Now, you now look at the same Christianity that the slaves were practicing. The Christianity the black slaves, enslaved black people in America was practicing, was a Christianity that was telling them that they must obey their masters. That it is unbiblical to fight against authorities. On one hand, America is happy about the American Revolution. On one hand, America is telling slaves not to fight against their masters. So you can have the same tool and it can be used for different means.
Okay.
So this is where, for instance, you look at Islam. The Islam that was used as a form of revolution to be able to remove the corrupt monarchy in Iran. The Shah was corrupt.
Yes.
That was used to remove the monarchy in Iran and was able to reinvent the Persian civilization to see itself not just as a satellite or a colony of Western imperialism, but as a form of a civilization state and a co-equal superpower. It's the same Islam that has turned Hausa people into slaves in northern Nigeria. That has turned some Yoruba people into eternal slaves in Ilorin, where they do not see the reason for them to change the status quo and stop the minority from dominating and destroying them and feudalizing them. It's a two-edged sword. So the issue of religion, it depends on how you interpret it. It is like a flour. You can use it to make bread or use it to make biscuits.
We're floor now.
You see that you can use it to make donuts or you can use it to make puff puff. So it depends on how you use what you use it to do. This is why this kind of a platform is extremely critical. Why we come here every day. But how are we going to be able to speak at least to 1,000 people every day, every weekend? Because we know the thousands are going to geometrically increase and take this knowledge to the four corners of the world, especially to the Negro race. It's extremely critical. And I've been waiting so that we can discuss Reformation because there's a lot to unload about Reformation and Revolution.
Okay, Ààrẹ, ibi tá ń lọ kò jìnnà, ibi tá máa yà ló pọ̀. We have seen in Nigeria today that our security agencies are overwhelmed and structurally they are compromised. Ẹ̀yin tẹ́ ń gbọ́ wa lórí platform tẹ́ bá wà, ẹ jọ̀ọ́, please help us to, especially Twitter, help us to retweet this space. It's very, very important. Help us to retweet it if you've not done, so that we can get more of our people on Twitter to come listen. Everything is not gbasgbos, everything is not politics, ẹnìkan wọlé ẹnìkan wọlé. Àwọn ibi tẹ́tí bá ti bá ṣe dé, Baba Tinubu is going to be the next president of Nigeria. Ẹni bá ní kò tẹ́ lọ́rùn kó lọ larí mọ́lẹ̀, ìyẹn òun ṣe ìṣòro wa mọ́sìn. Kò mọ̀ ju ká jáde lọ́jọ́ yẹn ká lọ dìbò ní ká tẹ̀ka wa. Àwọn tó ń ní nǹkan tó ti sílẹ̀, àwọn ló ń sáré kiri, tó ń sáré from pillar to post. However, we know that is important, but this one is crucial. Does Nigeria need revolution or reformation? We have seen that our security agencies are structurally compromised, and we have seen that there's a breakdown of trust between Nigerian citizens and the state itself. Now we look at, sorry, Eni?
No, go ahead. Morning question from Areni. Follow-up question, actually.
Okay.
Or continue.
All right, thank you. So we're going to look into reformation argument now before we go into the revolution argument. What specific reforms can realistically fix Nigeria's security architecture?
I think I would like to go deep into the first. I can't be able to answer these questions this way.
Okay.
And I think you should give me some minutes so that I can really unpack.
So that we can drive the. Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
What is the difference between the revolution and the reformation?
Good.
For the past couple of months and couple of years, people have been talking about revolution now, revolution now, revolution now. We've seen people like Oladimeji. I am not dismissing his activism. I know he's doing his activism based on his level of understanding as regards to issues. And I'm not saying that I am omniscient. We've seen people talking about revolution, Nigeria needs revolution. We've seen many activists talk about that Nigeria needs revolution. We've seen many Black Pan-Africanists talk about revolution. Does Nigeria actually need revolution? Should we compare? Let's juxtapose, compare and contrast. Many places in the world that revolutions have taken place. In what place can we also juxtapose where we have reformation? A revolution is a total overhaul of a political status quo structure, and with the bringing in of a new system. When the people that did the January 1996 coup, mostly led by Easterners. They called it a revolution, where they killed many leaders from across the country, excluding their own, and they called it a revolution. The aftermath of that revolution today, Nigeria has not recovered from it, and we are not careful, we might never recover from it. So that was an example of a revolution. When you talk about a revolution is not a tea party. A revolution, it is not a tea party. A revolution is not a Twitter gossip. A revolution is bloody. The question I want to ask you, which blood do you want to spill for that revolution? Is it like the revolution they did in 1966, where the blood of the Yoruba people was spilled, the blood of the Hausas and Fulanis and Kanuris was spilled, but miraculously, most of the blood of the Igbo leaders from Azikwe to Michael Okpara was spared? Can revolution actually take place in a multi-ethnic, multi-religious, multiracial country like Nigeria? What are the fundamentals for you to have a revolution? I'm going to list 1, 2, 3 things to show as examples of how revolutions happen. I will talk about the Islamic Revolution of Iran. I will talk about the American Revolution. And I will talk about the Haitian Revolution and the aftermath. And I will talk about the Uthman Danfodio Revolution. Because the Uthman Danfodio Revolution was a revolution. What Uthman Danfodio did in Hausa land was a revolution. Let me tell you the truth. Nobody knows the importance of revolution like the Fulanis in Nigeria. That is why people are surprised. So we have so many Fulanis on Twitter and social media this way, so they can protest. When they told us under Buhari that protest was haram, now under a Yoruba president, they are telling us that they need to fight against, Almighty has commanded them to fight against a bad government. So these are the questions you need to ask yourself. So if you look at, and I'm also going to give you Reformation. A good example in Reformation was the issue that happened in England, the creation of the Anglican Church, and the issue that happened with Martin Luther, where he was able to separate the Protestants, who are now the evangelicals, from the Catholic Church. That was a Reformation. But let us now talk about revolution. If anybody is telling you about revolution in a multi-ethnic, multi-religious, highly volatile country like Nigeria, 2 things can happen. You either become enslaved or you become the enslaver. In Uganda, after when Uganda was producing people like Obote, they were producing radicals, fundamentalists, bloodthirsty generals like Idi Amin. Many young elements were in the bush, people like Museveni, telling the young Ugandans to come join them in the bush to organize a revolution. Museveni studied political science, and that was how they believed that they were doing revolution. Look, revolution oftentimes it is the language of the leftists. It is the radical neo-leftists that uses the term revolution most of the time. I'm not saying all the time. But we see what Museveni did, is doing in Uganda. Yes, he's been ruling Uganda for the past 40 years. Uganda has not been turned into a paradise. He has turned his entire family are the ones ruling Uganda, even though it comes from a 1% minority ethnicity. And Uganda is already positioning his son to become the next president for life of Uganda. Now, tell me, is that a revolution? So when you see a revolution, that is why it is, I'm not surprised when I see ethnic minorities that are always joining any popular movement in radical overthrow of what they seems to be an unjust structure of government in Nigeria. Because minorities can only become powerful within Nigeria with the structure, with something like a military rule or revolution. The minorities, Fulanis, took over the northern Nigeria till this day. It was through a revolution. One of the dangers of revolution and one of the things that people use to build a cohesive bloc in a multi-ethnic, multi-religious, multinational axis is to do what we call trauma bonding. So how were the Fulani class, immigrants, able to penetrate the outside nations and turn them against their own people? The answer is very simple. They told them, oh, number one, oh, we're all suffering together. We're all victims. We're all suffering, we're all victims. That was what they were saying. Let us kill your leaders. This system of government we are using, it is not good. Let us use a theocratic system where the mandate will be from heaven, not this worldly system. Everything will be fine after that. There will be peace. There will be food. The price of bread will become low. Just the way they are deceiving some ignorant Yorubas. And what happened? The Hausa peasants, they joined. And after their sackings and their leaders were wiped out and killed, they became slaves. They became pauperized. And that area of the world became the poverty capital of the world for the past 200 years. That is the benefit of revolution. Another example of revolution was what happened in Ilorin. After Afonja rebelled and he created an independent Ilorin city-state out of the reach of the Alaafin of Oyo, where some part of the Baruba land, Nupe land, the dominant country, and many Oyo city-states were forged together to create Ilorin Emirates. Ilorin. Afonja was about enjoying the fruit of his labor. But the mercenaries he hired from Sokoto started to tell Yoruba Muslims, how can we allow a kafiri who does not pray 5 times a day, who is not Muslim enough, who cannot even recite Islamic verses, how can we allow him to be our leader? This is against the tenets of Islam. They started poisoning because they've positioned themselves, and they've already positioned himself as the most knowledgeable Islamic ruler, cleric in Ilorin. So the mosques was no longer a place of worship anymore. The mosque became a place of planning, execution, of a place of politics. And before you knew it, a radical army, a radical hit squad was raised, and Afonja, whose great-great-grandfather had been ruling in Ilorin for almost 5 generations, was not just killed, he was burnt alive, so that his generation and his lineage will be raised from the surface of the earth. They now say, oh, let us do a new system of government. We cannot continue the system of government that these Kafiris are using. Let us use an Islamic system of government. And who did they put at the head of that Islamic system of government? A Fulani. That is why, and they'll tell you, oh, there's no tribalism in Islam. But they will never allow somebody else to be at that hierarchy. It is them alone. The Arabs do it, the Turks do it, the Fulanis also do it. The only people that are not intelligent enough are the Negroes, the Yorubas, the Hausas. The Kanuris were smarter. They refused to fall into that trap of the Fulanis. It was that same madness that they wanted to bring to the entire Yoruba race, which we fought back and we saw through the madness. Because it was revolution. You see people like the Mufti Iwo, you see people like the Oluwo of Iwo, in their mind, they are orchestrating a revolution. Where it says is their role, Olodumare start attacking structures, attacking, placing himself because he's a fanatical Muslim. So therefore, all other Obas in Yoruba land are inferior to him. Trying to incite innocent Yoruba Muslims against their Obas. That is the kind of message he was preaching. I'm not lying against him. Go and listen to it. So revolution, it destroys. Revolution is dangerous. Revolution is destructive. Let me also give you this instance, the Islamic Revolution. In the Islamic Revolution of Iran, what the Islamists did in Iran was that they were able to trauma bond. Now, we mentioned trauma bond with the liberals, with the student union leaders, with the civil union leaders, civil society leaders in Iran. And they were now saying, oh, the Shah is an American spy. The Shah is corrupt. It is true. Yeah, it's just like what I'm telling Yoruba people tonight. Nigeria is not good. Yeah. Nigeria is poor. Yeah. The country is mismanaged. Yeah. The question is, what are you using to replace it? They want you to kill your own leaders and replace them with who? They want you to destroy Sanwo-Olu and replace him with Chinedu? Quote unquote. Your leaders are bad. Look at what we saw in Lagos in the 2023 elections. In Lagos in 2023 elections, what we saw in Lagos was it's an example of revolution. Labour Party was taken over by ethnic supremacists from Igbo extraction. And Peter Obi saw suddenly, who was part of the ruling elite, who mismanaged Anambra for 8 years, was suddenly repackaged as a messiah. And because many of the people that were within this system, many of them are in their early 20s and late 20s and early 30s. So they don't know about the history of Nigeria. So they joined Peter Obi and they were all over the internet and creating an illusion that doesn't exist. But that's not the issue. That's democracy, right? But what happened in Lagos? Not only was the leadership of the Lagos Labour Party replaced with an Igbo man, all of a sudden, many of the candidates under the Labour Party that was contesting for House of Reps, for House of Assemblies, were Igbos. And they were saying from top to bottom, from top to bottom. They don't even want you to talk about competence. It is now top to bottom. They told you, oh, the country is bad. We need good leaders. Now they tell you, do not talk, do not explain, and do not question anything. Do not ask any questions. It is just top to bottom. And all of a sudden, we saw people, mischievous characters. It's just like some of us are now exposing it. And we now saw a lot of things that were happening. And they took over the entire structure. And before you know what was happening, we started producing House of Rep Igbos in Lagos. The question is this actually a revolution or a clamor for good governance? Another good example was in what happened in Abuja, Federal Capital Territory. One of the most oppressed people in Nigeria are the Gwari people. The Kaduna, which used to be one of their homeland, was where the capital of northern Nigeria was built, northern region. They were displaced from their homeland and the British built a brand new city from the scratch in Kaduna. So when people say the Britain built Lagos, and they are now, you see, failed people with their failed political leaders in the north, failed people with their failed political leaders in the east, trying to look at how they are going to capture Lagos. It is the highest form of insanity. I'm going to tell you why. And they start saying all sort of nonsense. Because it was the British that built Kaduna City from the scratch on the graveyard of indigenous minorities before the Hausa Fulanis took it over the way they do. The former capital of the eastern region was Calabar. But the Igbos, who with their Igbo nationalists with their supremacist ideology, could not afford that Calabar would be the capital of eastern region. What did they do? They moved it to Enugu. And what was Enugu? Enugu was a place where coal was discovered by the British. And coal was being used, was being tapped and taken into England. One of the things that was used to power the Industrial Revolution of the 19th century. So what happened in Enugu? Enugu was a bush, nothing there. That Enugu state, the British built it from ground zero into that place. So going back to what I was saying about FCT. So the indigenous people of the FCT used to vote for their own indigenous person to emerge as a senator in FCT. But when the issue of top to bottom started, they lost their thinking cap. And they went to go and vote for an Arewa woman And that was how they chased their own son. By the time the hypnosis, the scales fell from their eyes, they started crying. I want to forward, I want to share, I want. That is why you see that they are behind wicked now to undo the wickedness and the madness they did in 2023. They are only lucky that Tinubu won. If Tinubu have not won, they will be in that situation for the next 300 years and never might not fall. Not everybody gets the second chance. That is why Wike is making all their second-class kings to become first-class now. Because Tinubu is trying to gain the support of the indigenous people. So in 2023, they did a revolution, and that revolution, they kicked out their own people. That's why you saw the local government election that happened early this year in Amak, all those places in Abuja. It was the indigenous people trying to undo the mistake they made. Even when the APC brought a Fulani man to represent them, the indigenous people are not doing top to bottom again. They know they've committed blasphemy by doing revolution in a multi-ethnic country. Tell me about the revolution in a multi-ethnic country. Runi. Because you are all going to end up, because you want to kill a rat, you will burn down the entire house. So the indigenous people now, they are now doing reformation. Because there is a mosquito in your private part, you are not going to shoot it and say you want to use bazooka to finish it. I cannot say it in Yoruba. That's why I'm using this. I know that in this analogy. Let me now go into the issue. I was trying to explain the issue of Iran. By the time the leftists, the liberals, understood what was happening in Iran, they were gone. Because they did a revolution. If you are doing a revolution, who is going to take over power? You have to ask yourself that question. And say it is good. Any kind of power leaders ta ló máa take over leaders ibẹ̀ ni wàhálà ti bẹ̀rẹ̀. Ibẹ̀ l'àṣírí ti máa tú, ẹ ti máa mọ̀ pé within a coup there is a coup. Within a caucus there is a caucus. Within a mafia there is a mafia. Let's go further. I will give an example of the French Revolution. Sherry, it is very easy to manipulate our youth. Because many of these youth don't understand the nuances of this revolution. Which is why people like us must continue to speak and break it down. That God has given the opportunity to speak about what is happening in different continents of the world for the past 5,000 years and juxtapose with local events to be able to understand issues. In the French Revolution, what caused the French Revolution was the price of bread. Being seen, price of petrol is also seen. It was the price of bread, and they killed all their king and queens. And say there's no monarchy. And they say all men are born equal. And they created the French Republic. Look, French was not the official language of France before revolution. French was a multi-ethnic, multi-linguistic country. France was a multi-linguistic country before the revolution. After power was hijacked after the revolution, both power minorities here won't wipe one out. If you don't speak France, you are going to hell. You are going to be jailed or you are going to be killed. That's why you see places like Corsica. They are still fighting for independence to get out of France. And France is just brutally wasting them, their secessionist leaders. That is why France will not... Look, France will only support your self-determination movement if France is going to benefit anything. Am I making sense? So you have to understand this is a game of hypocrisy, but that's not where I'm going. That's another place entirely. It was after the French Revolution. Only one wipe out two minorities. Arsene Wenger, the former coach of Arsenal, has his own indigenous language, don't so. French. It was after the French Revolution that they were now able to use bloodbath to create a monolithic country. Some of the about only leftist ideology now organize the revolution. Moment so. Let us erase. Let us stop ethnicity in Nigeria. Let us just be Nigerians. Let us stop state of origin. And let us say, every time will be there to Sonny. Inti Peter be so conny. Inti Namdi Azikwe so conny. That's how they think. It's revolution.
And the deputy speaker.
Deputy speaker, Inter Sonny. Because there are historical evidences to how they move, to how they think. But 98% of our people cannot know this because we do not have the educational system to be able to be fortified for these people. Wars are not won on the battlefield. Wars are won on days like tonight, where we are sharpening the mind of our people to be able to resist. Which is why we said Yoruba nationalism is beyond Ronu, is beyond all these things. It is intellectualism, Awoism. So in the French Revolution, so nígbà tí wọ́n pa àwọn kings ìtàn, Charles, they went a little bit further. Our ideologues tó kọ manifesto the French Revolution as a esdro. If it ain't loy, egungun be careful. Express with the go. If it ain't loy, think pochu. What did they do? They say, oh, I want to know. They are now wanting that body. Let us kill them. All the ideologues, intellectuals that organized the French Revolution were also beheaded. So the mobs took over. You can see the same thing happening within the Yoruba community on social media. But we are not going to be beheaded by these mobs. It is fire for fire. We understand. For many decades, we've been ideologizing why there should be Yoruba Renaissance. This is what we did. What happened? We saw mobs, no brain, no intellectualism, nothing whatsoever. They are not interested. No history. Many of them were still behind Peter Obi in 2023, 2024. By 2025, they want to start lecturing people like us about how nationalism should be done. And they're the one organizing the mobs to be attacking, to be isolating, to be reporting accounts, and even destroy what we are doing. That is mobs. Those are mobs. And that was what happened in Russia too. The ideologues were killed. One probable money near France. By the time the ideologues were killed, the only person that survived, brutal. That was what led to the emergence of another tyrant. So they jump from frying pan to fire. So Nili Awusana, they joined from frying pan to fire. Niloni, they jump from frying pan to fire. Ni Iran, they jump from frying pan to fire. Ni Syria, they jump from Assad to Al-Qaeda. Afghanistan, from fire pan to fire.
Everybody jump.
In Egypt, from frying pan to fire. In Sudan, from frying pan to fire. So the people jump from frying pan in Burkina Faso, from frying pan to fire. What's New Uganda, from frying pan to fire. Burkina Faso, because it's democracy.
Benny.
Say what you want one chance.
It's just 2 generations. One of Bori, one of Banjin, because we practice it.
So when you look at that situation of things, and that is why. So let me give you so that's an example. So they jump in. So in France, it led to the emergence of Napoleon Bonaparte. Now, Napoleon Bonaparte not only created chaos in France, he created chaos in the entire Europe and the world
Yeah.
because of one single revolution. They did not reform. The reason why almost all the powerful monarchies in ancient Europe have collapsed is because have collapsed, except United Kingdom, is that United Kingdom used to do reformation ASAP as soon as possible before there's massive revolts. That's what they used to do to survive. Let me also go into the Russian Revolution. Because many people will not tell you these nuances, these intricacies of this revolution. When I talk about the Russian Revolution, I'm going to stop. Then I'll give an example of a reformation and why Nigeria should go for it and how it favors the Yoruba people. Because we should not just talk about the problem, we should talk about the problem, examples, and solutions. In Russia, there was a revolution called the Bolshevik Revolution. Now, the Romanovs, the kings, the Tsars of Russia, of the Russian empires, they were also very, very corrupt. While the Russians were slaving and they were backward and they were hungry, the Romanovs were busy organizing parties. We see the same thing in our current political elite. People will be complaining of insecurity. So we are going to see political leaders branding cars up and down. So those kind of sentiments that can spark unrest and revolution in any society. That's why you saw Tinubu saying that he's not going to, he refused to go to Lagos. I think it's in Lagos that to do any official assignment because of the insecurity in Nigeria. Because he's also trying to balance the public image. The feudal politicians don't care because they are feudalists. They believe they have the guns, the police, the army to kill as many insurrectionists as possible. They don't care. So in Russia, the Bolshevik Revolution, in the Bolshevik Revolution in Russia, there was the Bolsheviks led by Lenin, Trotsky. These are intellectuals, Marxists, that organized that revolution, and they killed the entire lineage of the kings and Queen Opa. They wiped them off and declared Russia to be a communist country. Now, Lenin, unfortunately, did not last. He was an ideologue. The second in command to Lenin was Trotsky, who was a Russian Jew. So Lenin was supposed to take over from Trotsky was supposed to take over from Lenin. But there was another hooligan, Stalin. No ideology, no nothing, was just a hooligan. What did he do? No control Anthony Bonlawa. They crushed Trotsky and took over power. The atrocity that Stalin committed was worse than what the kings don't commit. In eastern Ukraine, Stalin used what they call starvation. They call it the Holodomor, to exterminate millions of Ukrainians from eastern Ukraine. He did the same thing in Kazakhstan. Ó kàn pa àwọn èèyàn káàkiri, ó kàn waste àwọn èèyàn ni. Because he does not have the brain power to do things. He believes in muscle. Because he was a product of the mob. Ara àwọn tó bẹ́ẹ̀ pé ẹ jẹ́ ká lọ sun bẹ̀yẹn náà, àwọn tó máa ń gbé kerosene, tó máa ń gbé lighter ni, tó máa ń gbé táyà.
EndSARS.
EndSARS. Ada fún yín.
SOB.
It is a bitter truth. When people like Ronu, all of a sudden, with nothing, no ideological leaning, no ideologue, nothing whatsoever, apart from being angry, all of a sudden turn themselves to leaders. Apart from cursing the government and spitting bile, there's nothing intellectual, there's nothing academic, there's nothing philosophical about them. They are standing. That's why you see them. They are always supporting evil. And Owambe is not Yoruba. Even though it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. There were a lot of Renu that were produced during the EndSARS. And all of a sudden, they started speaking for the Yoruba people. If we did not step in, that would have been a big collapse in the Yoruba race. There is nothing. But apart from being angry, which is why it is dangerous for the mobs to take over power. Today, anything like movement, I'm not interested. Oh, Ronu movement, I'm not part of it. I'm saying it here, I am not part of the Ronu movement, which is why this platform is Yoruba nationalism series. Láti òní lọ. Because it is a pattern, it is the same spirit. Anywhere you have movement, revolution, and you've seen the ants on the wall, it is always brutal. It is always, not only is the ruling class going to be destroyed, you are going to be killed. Because there is no society without mobs. They are here, they are everywhere. Look at one history. I've seen it. When you look at one history. Look at what in town one from the way can manage, can that power. They say it. You see young boys, that's what they are talking about. These are young boys in their late 20s, early 20s, early 30s. This is what they say. We can't remember so history long to one that one can that power. In don't count one about what shall create political parties. Báwo ṣe máa dá owó, báwo ṣe máa maintain àwọn èèyàn, in tó kàn wọ́n nìyẹn. All these things then ṣe kò kàn wọ́n. That is destruction, which is why it is dangerous for ideologues. You are the one leading a struggle, you are the one organizing a struggle, you must also protect yourselves. Which is why I am not part of the Ronu movement. Just the way I dissociated myself from the conservative thing. And that's why I always support Reformation. So I've spoken about the French Revolution. I've spoken about now let me even talk about the Arab Spring. There's so much in my head. Many of us like that Arab Spring better now. Abi, after 2010, lo better. Now, what happened in the Arab Spring? I'm going to use Libya as an example. And Iraq. That's Iraq. So there was protest. Oh, we need a good government. There is. Now, by the time they overthrew their government, who took over in Iraq? Babakari, Madam Ajoke. It was ISIS.
Barely.
ISIS that started raping their wives, raping their mothers, enslaving their friends, that brought terror that has not been seen. Just like our terror just 200 years ago, Asian books was what ISIS brought into the world. And that chaos of that revolution on Dago West Africa, Nigeria, is swap is an ideology of that happened in Iraq.
Olóńṣẹlẹ̀ náà ti
At
báyìí mọ́.
Bombay, the carnage, the terror, the system of warfare that has been perfected in Iraq and Syria is what they brought into Nigeria. And how did it happen? It was because some people wanted a revolution. They were tired of their corrupt political elite. They did not ask for reformation. What happened in Libya? The Libyans were sold the lie that Gaddafi was corrupt. Gaddafi is evil. So they destroyed Gaddafi, killed him, and they said this is revolution. Now democracy is going to come. What has happened in Libya? Libya is now a war zone. They are even selling black people as slaves in Libya.
Yeah.
For the past 10 years, that country has been broken into 3. Different countries, Russian back, Turkey back, American back, different factions. The resources is now being looted at a scale never seen before. Oil and gas, Gaddafi control. It is now being taken by the entire world. And ISIS is also has its own enclave in Libya. And there is not even any hope.
At all.
There is no hope that Libya will ever become a single country in the world again. Because they did a revolution. So in Nigeria, Reformation. The Reformation, an example of a Reformation, a good one, was what happened between the Protestants and the Catholics, even though it later became bloody. That was a Reformation. They didn't say we must kill all the Catholics. It was just, oh, this is not done. Let us do this way. I'm not saying Reformation is not going to be bloody. The revolution is more deadly. At least both the Catholics and the Protestants are still alive. In Reformation, it's winner takes all. In revolution, winner takes all. So let's now talk about Nigeria. As Yoruba people, you have no business advocating for revolution. You are saying Yoruba, why are you doing a revolution against the Yoruba government? As Yoruba people, what do you need in Nigeria? State police, true federalism, fiscal federalism, devolution of power. How we are going to bring the Yorubas of Kwara and Kogi and Delta and Edo and bring them into the Yoruba land. At least if we can get 70% of those people back into Yoruba land, it's a win. Control our health system. Create a nation within a nation. Because that was what the ideology of Awolowo, the father of the modern Yoruba nation, gave to us. That is what in Tokwe in Yoruba no Nigeria niye. And what favor the Yoruba people might not favor the Igbos. Ope Igbo now. Ope Fulani. And it might even not be favorable to the Middle Belt minorities because they are not as economically viable like you. So why are you now using yourself as a sacrificial lamb? You are using your brain power to be doing a revolution that will pay them. So when we say think Yoruba first, it's not a by Godfed phrase or mantra or clause. It is an ideology of self-preservation. This is reformation. Àwọn tó destroy Nigeria tán ṣe unitary system of government. Ìbọn náà fi dàrú 1966. Ìbọn làwọn Kaduna Isiogbu lò. But kí la fi gba díẹ̀ padà lọ́dún lórí time Buhari? Lórí time Buhari, ìgbà yẹn ni we cannot build our train, we cannot build our railway, we can build our own power generating companies, transmission, and all the rest. They use guns to ensure it was not given to us, but we use pen to get it back.
Yoruba
It's
Revolution.
reformation. It is reformation.
Ogbonjagbara.
So reformation is you are going to, because if it was Yoruba against Yoruba, within a Yoruba country, we can't be talking about revolution. Yes. Because head or tail, when the people that are going to take over power are still going to be Yoruba. It can be Yoruba from Ekiti, from Egba, it can be from Ilorin, it can be from Awori, it can be from Ilaje, it can be from Ikale, it can be from Ishekiri. It is Yoruba against Yoruba. But you are not going to do a Yoruba national, you are not going to do a revolution where you are going to destroy Tinubu and bring in a Peter Obi. Ayé ọ̀tá ìyẹn bàjẹ́ nìyẹn. You are not going to jump from frying pan to fire. You want to do a revolution and bring in an article. To do what? So these are the questions you should ask yourself. You need to be intentional. The first question you should ask: any cash revolution, cash coup, ta ló máa jẹ president? You need to ask yourself that question. This was the question the Middle Belt did not ask properly. Then they asked, they don't know money. The Middle Belt, àwọn ni wọ́n ní mọ́sù àti agbára láti ṣe the counter coup against the Nzogbu, against Urosi. And what did they do? They brought a Middle Belt minority, Gowon, or not síwájú láti jẹ president. Tó bá gbọ́ Fulani náà gbé jáde ní Nàìjíríà tí máa pín láti gbà yẹn. That's why I said the Fulani, kò sẹ́ni tó mọ̀ pa revolution to Fulani. So, reformation, revolution. If any revolution in Nigeria now, Nigeria will become a Congo or Somalia. For Yoruba people, you must engage in reformation. Not because we are fearful, we are not. We must do any political movement or nationalism that would jettison our standing within the Nigerian polity is a no-no. I'm going to stop here.
Thank you very, very much, Are. Before I forget, what about the question you say you have?
Are have actually answered my question.
Oh, okay.
So,
Thank you. Ẹ jọ̀ọ́, ẹ̀yin tẹ́ ń gbọ́ wa láti orí TikTok, ẹ má bínú fún àṣálẹ́ yìí, because I see Mr. Kevin asking about what happened. This program is not on TikTok today. Yes, I've replied you. Something came up that's beyond our control, but I can assure you next Saturday we'll be back on TikTok. Thank you very much. Several comments have come in. The reformation is a calculated and planned change to a system. Showore is only trying to be the head of that revolutionary change. Showore is an authoritarian dictator in character. Different comments. The one back when your empire was big and thriving and expanding and colonizing others. At that time, at that same exact period, the whole of Eastern region was just full of unorganized, small scattered groups. We are not the same. Thank you very much for the comment. Several comments. The same person said, you can't have a successful revolution in a multi-ethnic society. It will accidentally turn into a civil war based on ethnic and religion religious divisions. These are facts. How can that be Tutsi and Kino Puramoni? Ni self
Utu.
right? Utu, thank you very much. And the same man said, the road to hell are paved with good
And for
intentions.
Nigeria, it will actually be a child play.
A child's play.
Rwanda will be a child play if it happened in Nigeria.
Oh my terrible gun. Oh my terrible gun. Thank you very much for your comment. We have several comments from all our listeners, from Twitter, from Facebook, and YouTube too. Esheun, thank you very much. As we draw to a close, I'll open the mic. Yeah, Mr. Olua and the good works have come up to talk to us to ask questions. I'll add you as speaker. Okay, add a speaker. I will take Mr. Oluwatobi to go first. I will unmute you now. Please, Mr. Oluwatobi, go ahead with your question.
Mr. Oluwatobi, are you there?
Yeah, go ahead. I might know it's okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Ekale.
Ekale.
So basically, I repeat the question. Whenever they talk about revolution, ask them who will be the leader. But I mean, who will be all the cats? Only that one question. Because these people have another intentions or another motive entirely. It's just their major operanda is just to seize power from Tinubu. And the country láti máa sọ fún mi, question February, the country láti máa sọ fún mi pé tí Tinubu bá kúrò ńbẹ̀, they will never allow Yoruba man to smell power again. Because unbelievably Yoruba man is a threat to every other tribe in Nigeria. Now the question now is that, what is the way forward? Because President Bola Ahmed Tinubu tó bá tí bàbá bá ṣe tí wọ́n kúrò ńbẹ̀, hope this thing will not come back to haunt us because of the fact that because I sincerely hope President Bola Ahmed in the second time can bring about regional government or true federalism that would, and this won't be undue at the end. That is my own decision.
Thank you, Mr. Oluwatobi. Yeah, Are.
Eshepupo, I'm not going to lie to you. There are a lot of things the Yoruba people have benefited under Tinubu for the past 4 years that I cannot say in public. I also want to thank President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and the Orotumosoi Ologbonlodeye and the governor of Kwara State for the elevation and the institutionalization of the Onigama of Gama, Oba Jimo, the Afanja descendants, tí Olódùmarè jẹ́ kí wọ́n recognize as Ọba ní Gama land. Gbogbo àwọn tó ti kú tí wọ́n ti sọ ẹ̀mí wọn nù that I know about. Ọ̀rọ̀ tí mò ń sọ yìí, ọ̀rọ̀ tó lágbára díẹ̀ ni. And I thank all the Yoruba leaders in Kwara State, the hardcore Yoruba nationalists, especially the Afanja descendants, tí wọn ò gbàgbé orísun wọn, tí wọn ò lè jẹ́ kí ìran Afanja kó parun ní Gama. What happened 2, 3, 4 days ago should have happened in 2002, 2003, when we had the Yoruba president. The Yoruba president, náà nígbà yẹn, ẹnu mi ò lè sọ̀rọ̀ púpọ̀ lórí ẹ̀. Ṣùgbọ́n Yoruba president tá a ní sìn, Baba could damn the consequences and ensure that Onigama was brought back. ogun àti 1971. Ogun yẹn mi rò pé ó lè yanjú in the next 10-20 years. It is one of the biggest stories. But ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ Yorùbá ló máa yé lọ́jọ́ iwájú. And I want to really thank President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Mo mọ̀ sọ̀rọ̀ ní Mr. Tobi sọ pé kí ni President Bola Ahmed Tinubu kí náà ṣe. Let me tell you the truth. Lẹ́yìn tax reform, gbogbo àwọn structural changes, àwọn nǹkan kan tá a ti ní sìn, we should wait for 2027. The biggest mistake tí many Yoruba ideologues máa ń ṣe is that we've forgotten one fundamental thing. Politics comes before governance. Ẹ jẹ́ kí n tún sọ. Mistake tí Awólọ́wọ̀ ṣe pẹ̀lú Akíntọ́lá nìyẹn. No matter how good you are, no matter how loved you are, somebody more ruthless than you can destroy you. Politics comes before governance. Gbogbo goodness agenda tí Tinubu nìyẹn fún Nàìjíríà, àfọ̀nbóyá fún ọ̀rọ̀ Yorùbá. Tán bá lè lọ, kò sí nǹkan tá a máa ṣe o. Ṣé mo parọ́? Tán bá lè lọ, kò sí nǹkan tá a máa ṣe. Bí ọ̀rọ̀ revolution náà tó ní mo tún sọ. Alẹ́ Jonathan lọ, ọwọ́ ta la kò sí. One chance. Ọwọ́ Buhari ni. Tí ẹ bá ṣe pé Tinubu Yorùbá wà ní gọ́ọ̀mẹ̀ntì yẹn, ibi tí Buhari ò bá gbé wa dé, ó máa kọjá Afghanistan.
Ìgbà tí gbé wa débẹ̀.
A ti gbé wa débẹ̀. So, ara ń tá a fẹ́ mo ti sọ fún yín. Ẹ̀yin èèyàn wa, ẹni orí yóò dilé ni, á faradà ni o. Nǹkan ti bàjẹ́ ń sìn a mọ̀. A máa faradà ni o. A gbọ́dọ̀ padà lẹ́yìn gọ́ọ̀mẹ̀ntì yìí o. Ìyà ó jẹ. Gbogbo èèyàn ti mí ni wa Pankẹ́rẹ́ wa, wọ́n ti tọ́jú ẹ̀ sílẹ̀ Nàìjíríà o.
Ààrẹ ẹnìkan sọ nǹkan ó ní kí n fẹ́ kẹ́ wo ojú fúnrán.
Okay.
Ó nígbà tí Buhari wà bẹ̀ tí Fúlàní pẹ̀lú wọn tí Buhari ṣe tí Fúlàní ò jẹ ìyà kan sìn. Why is Bọ́lá Tóbi sọ pé tí Tinubu á lọ tán pé Yorùbá náà máa jẹ Pankẹ́rẹ́?
Títí wá yàtọ̀.
Tó náà wọ́n
Fúlàní dẹ̀ ń jìyà.
is two against one.
Fúlàní jẹ́yà ṣé wọn ò gbé mi yẹ tí aláàtí àmà ṣé wọn ò gbé tìmọ̀ lé ni. Ṣé àwọn màlábí ò ṣé wọn mọ̀ jẹ wa ní. Sorry, Tashi, please, I don't want to say some sensitive things because a lot of powerful people are watching this.
Yeah.
So, in Tole from 2027 upward, restructuring or nothing. So that no matter what happens in Nigeria, if anybody takes over power, anybody will need Pankẹ́rẹ́ wa lọ́wọ́. Because we have to tell ourselves the truth. If you leave this structure of government intact, tell another Yami back the power yẹn, kòbókò ní straight o, ó lè yọ sí yín o. Báwọn kan náà ṣe ń jẹ lọ́wọ́lọ́wọ́ lókè ọya. So ọ̀rọ̀ mi ò jù báyẹn lọ. Mr. Tobi.
Thank you. Good work.
Bàbá Bákàrè ẹ má bínú. So ẹ jẹ́ kí n sáré béèrè question lọ́wọ́ ààrẹ.
Good work.
Ẹ jọ̀ọ́, Mr. Goodluck, ẹ jọ̀ọ́, ẹ fún mi ní 1 minute, ẹ ṣé. Follow up lórí question Mr. Tobi ni. Ààrẹ, Pankẹ́rẹ́ tí a fẹ́ jẹ yẹn, tí ọba ṣe, tó bá, okay, kí bàbá tó lọ 2027, tí wọ́n bá, tí reform bá wọlé, gbogbo àwọn reform tí bàbá ń ṣe nísìn, tó wá jẹ́ pé wọ́n gbé everything padà, wọ́n regionalize ẹ̀. a mọ ìlú tá wà ààrẹ.
Kò sí ẹni tó lè tún ṣe. Téèyàn bá ṣe kú Nàìjíríà ń sìn, the country is gone.
Bọ̀ ṣé wọn ò lè smart ẹ̀ tí bàbá bá lọ?
Wọ́n máa smart ẹ̀, that's the end of Nigeria now. Ta ni ò fẹ́ regionalism? South fẹ́. Ta ni ò fẹ́ fiscal federalism? Ṣé Robiri Rivers ò fẹ́ control epo ẹ̀ ni?
Bọ̀ ààrẹ South
Ẹ jẹ́
fẹ́.
fún instance, ẹ jẹ́ kí n fún instance. Ìgbà tí Tinubu, ìgbà tí Buhari kọ́kọ́ di president ní 2015, ṣé mo the first thing tó ṣe? Tó kọ́ cancel. Ó cancel Niger Delta amnesty ní ṣe rántí Mr. Bakare.
Bẹ́ẹ̀ni.
Gbogbo táwọn tó ń polo ń gbà pátá ló stop. Àwọn Yorùbá pariwo Avengers náà dà síta. Láàrin 2 weeks, Nigeria was not producing 1 barrel of crude oil. Pápá ìpàdé lọ bẹ̀ wọ́n. Wọ́n declare tó ń polo wanted. Dokubo wanted. Kí ló ṣẹlẹ̀? Wọ́n lọ settle àwọn boys yẹn ní pé ìjọ ń tẹ́ fẹ́ máa fẹ́. Àti tó jẹ́bọ̀ ló ṣàlọ́wọ́ kó bàbá ẹni tí ó bọ̀.
Bọ̀ ṣé àwọn èèyàn wa ṣó yé wọn ṣá?
Náà la fi wá bíbẹ̀ láti wá explain fún wọn. Wọ́n la fi wá ń bí. Ẹ̀rọ báwọn èèyàn gbọ́n tán sọ ń bí ni ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ ní ìsìn. Ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ náà ní platform ẹ̀.
Bẹ́ẹ̀.
Once they hear this wonderful message, they take it to their platform. Àwọn yẹn náà mú lọ to their platform. Ọmọdé àgbà àgbàlagbà ń gbọ́. So you have to understand the reality that we are facing.
Torí ààrẹ a mọ̀ wípé ó ní àwọn méjì nínú ìlú yẹn.
Àní ẹ máa wọrí àwọn nìkan kan ni wọ́n wà ní ẹ̀rí pa alliance wọn náà fẹ́ lọ ṣe ní 2027. Bẹ̀tẹ̀ àwọn nìkan kan náà wà ní Nàìjíríà.
Tẹ́ bá dẹ̀ rántí during campaign ní 23 vice wa ẹgbọ́n nǹkan tí vice wa sọ. Ẹni tó bá rántí nǹkan tí vice wa sọ.
Mo restructuring my foot. Ṣé bí máa gbọ́ ìgbà tó ní restructuring my foot, plenty of stop tax laws. Plenty ò rí gaming law tó ń fẹ́ lọ ṣe, plenty ò rí ṣe. There are 2 important parts of the constitutions tí wọ́n ti alter lọ́dún in these 4 years. Tó fẹ́ ṣe tọ́lọ́run ò jẹ́ kán rí ṣe. Tó pé Yorùbá, which is the lottery bill àti tax laws. Ṣé ẹ mọ̀ pé imagine kí country wà nínú òkùnkùn báyìí? Kẹ́ẹ̀dẹ̀ insist wípé you are never going to allow kí state regenerate electricity, kí country tẹ̀ máa rẹ́ẹ̀kì lọ.
Terrible.
Ṣé clarity Shettima ò lè lọ stop wọn? Kò lè stop ẹ̀, even àwọn Buhari ò lè stop ẹ̀. Because we are ready to progress. And we are, tí o bá see the help of Yoruba people ni, Dangote refinery is impossible. Because you need the support of the elites and the intellectuals of the Southwest for the Dangote refinery. So tí Dangote refinery bá lè ní electricity tiẹ̀ tó fi ń power something as big as Victoria Highland. So why táwa ò lè ní? That was the argument tó fi floor wọn. So the situation, I want all Yoruba people to understand something. We are never going to wait for other people nínú Nigeria mọ́. So structure tá a fi ní dúró dè wọ́n mọ́. Kò sẹ́ni tó lè repeat 1966 mọ́. The country is gone. Everybody bá gbìyànjú ẹ̀. Tẹ́ ẹ bá try 1966, òun nìkan ló máa kí àwọn family ẹ̀ ní fellow Nigerians. Òun ò lè try ẹ̀ mọ́ ń sìn mọ́. Kò sọ́bọ̀ ń dẹ̀rẹ̀ mọ́. So Yorùbá ti gbọ́n àti fún àwọn youth wa ní a proper political education, and àwọn political leaders wa tó dẹ̀ máa sell wa out, we are waiting for them. Ṣé ẹ rí pé for the past 4 years kò sí protest orí burúkú kan mọ́ lẹ́sà ní Southwest mọ́ ni? A ti gbọ́n. Láti mọ ẹgbẹ́ placard. Kò sí ẹ tó ṣe dáradára yẹn mọ́. And we thank Almighty God for how far we've come. The future is bright. It can be tough. The moment we know what Tinubu is passing through. Wọ́n fẹ́ kó ṣìṣe ni. Wọ́n fẹ́ kó ṣìṣọ́ ni. And the roadmap to 2027 is Southwest, South-South, and Middle Belt. That's all. Only Buhari fi win election, only Jonathan fi win election 2020, 2011. Southwest, South-South, and the Middle Belt ni. Only Buhari pani. Only Buhari pani. Southeast only for 2 million votes. Tomadi Boloju kan. Wọ́n ò lè rí wọ́n ò lè rí kí n ṣe ní 2020, 2027, nítorí ṣe ní 2023. Because the federal government under Buhari was tacitly supporting Peter Obi and Atiku against Tinubu. The federal government of APC was against its own APC presidential candidates. That's a fact. Tinubu the watch election. Wọ́n change the currency, wọ́n ṣe watch election. So in 2027, we are going on out. So there is a roadmap. Middle Belt, South-South, and Southwest. Anything coming from the Southeast will be diluted. Already good luck, good Adam Osoro. Mr. Adam.
Any question listen.
Yeah.
Yes, want to stop by the next dispensation where on fi sunu òfin wa. Ìpínlẹ̀ wa lọ dínkù kankan láti dá ọ̀nà tó ń ṣe sílẹ̀ rú. Kóníkàkùn máa bá tiẹ̀ lọ ni. Kóníkàkùn máa lọ sílẹ̀ ni kò sí jà ńbẹ̀ mọ́. That's
Torí ẹ̀ wò fi fẹ́ kẹ́ ṣe state police. Tẹ́ bá ní state police ó ṣe kú. So sójà wo ló lọ fi lọ gbàjọba l'Ékòó nígbà tán ní 20,000 Lagos State Police on ground. Fire for fire ni.
Bẹ́ẹ̀ni.
Fire for fire ni. So when it is the IG, so Tomati take over police, Tomati take over Abuja, at the center anyone to decentralize information. But you cannot do that when there are also means of fighting. Ni South-South, ni Southwest. Oh, I want some for this intervention. You explain to us. Why tell you by Yoruba leaders, tell by Igbo leaders? Am I explain? Rory TV. We want to know.
They will explain tire.
Exactly. Torí ẹ̀ náà fi centralize sí mo ti sọ tí ẹ jẹ́ ká stop ẹ̀.
Mr. Goodworks, ìbéèrè yín o.
Thank you so much, Ààrẹ. Ẹ ṣé gan. Ẹ ṣé gan.
Go ahead, Mr. Goodworks.
Your question méjì mo ní ẹjọ́.
Okay.
So the first question is, Ààrẹ has spoken about most of the revolutions, but the revolution in the US was successful. So I want to ask that, why was the reason that revolution was successful?
Revolution in US. Revolution in US was successful. But what happened? America said they are fighting against that all men are born equal, right? That they want to create republicanism. But what did America go and do? America now took expansionism and racism to a different level. The same American Republic created Jim Crow. The same America still used slaves. In fact, they institutionalized plantation slavery like never seen before. The biggest plantation slavery in the world was in America, while the second biggest plantation slavery was in the Sokoto Caliphate. Let's go further. It was the America T and Americans that were Britain was almost 1/5 of the current landmass. When they took over from Britain, America declared war against all its neighbors. They stole huge chunk of land from Spain, from Mexico, from the indigenous Americans, from the indigenous Hawaii, and took another big chunk of land from Britain and bought up Louisiana from France. Now, does that look like a revolution of peaceful people? Sorrow. Those are revolution. Those are, I don't want to tell me if I can, if I'm American, if I'm dad, if I can ban me.
Good
work.
Me to tell you that we know that there was a noise coming from his background. Yeah, good work.
Short year.
Ó ti yé wọn, ó ti yé wọn. Ẹlẹ́ẹ̀kejì
question
nǹkan.
ti yé mi bẹ́ẹ̀, ó ti yé mi. If the rest of the guns hear me. 7 questions to money they pay. This issue of state police, I don't understand. Can the implication 5 years? So like, what is the reason for this?
Well, maybe number one, kò sí nǹkan tó kan IG kò máa sọ fún wa time tá a máa ṣe state police. 2, ó dẹ̀ wrong kan sọ pé wọ́n á gbé àwọn police náà yẹn òní wá kó wá tí wọ́n wá domesticate sí their in their local places. Àwọn tán ti wà corrupted with the federal policing system ló tún fẹ́ kó wá. We are starting afresh. Àwọn people yẹn ti yàyàkuyà. Tẹ́ ẹ bá kó wọn kúrò ní kinní wọ́n máa di tọ́ọ̀gì sí wa lọ́rùn ni. Tẹ́rọ̀ sí wa ní state level ni. But one thing is that wọn ò lè mú jẹ ní state level.
Yeah.
Torí oníkálukú mọ́lé wọn, àmọ́ family wọn. Wọ́n ní bàdá láti àwọn náà gbowó nídìí ọ̀sán. Àwọn la rí lọ́nà Àkúrẹ́ junction.
Ẹja lọ lé wọn.
Ẹja lọ lé wọn. A ti dá fún yín.
Ààrẹ, they will even be ashamed to do that.
Àrò àṣẹ ọ̀pọ̀ àní ò ní lè sunlé.
Ó ti ṣe láti wọ́n náà nífẹ̀ẹ́
àní ò tiẹ̀ ṣe àwọn èèyàn àní ò bá wọn pàṣẹ lọ dáṣẹ́ rí kò lè sunlé.
Bẹ́ẹ̀ni. Ẹ ṣe ààrẹ, preferred, what's your question please?
Bọ̀dálà tí mo rí yín o, ẹ̀yin lẹ́ ń gbowó junction.
Apàdé lálẹ́.
Gbogbo ló ló máa gbọ́.
My question is, let me first of all greet the elders on the stage.
Thank you.
Arekurumi.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Greeting to Madam Adejoke.
Mo kí yín o, ẹ ṣé o.
Jagaba. Ẹ kú iṣẹ́ takuntakun. Ọlọ́run á fún gbogbo wa ṣe.
Àmì ẹ ṣe mí last week o, ẹ dẹ̀ wá sókè láti wá béèrè ẹ lè ní sùúrù àgbàtẹ́ bínú lọ.
No, èmi bínú kẹ̀, bóyá mo ní kankan, bóyá.
Okay.
There is no need for that.
Okay.
There is no need for that.
Thank you. You're welcome. Yeah, your question please.
My question is this.
Okay.
Good works. Ó ti try àti béèrè question yẹn. Because kọtí mo kàn tèmi observe ni pé this state police of the thing, our people yìí, I don't know, maybe they are trying to play trick on us. I'm not sure, maybe there's going to be state police by the fact of what that man said about he's talking about this congestion of I don't know, maybe discongesting the federal police, converting them to state police, and it's going to take 60 months before that could be done. They are just trying to play prank on us. They are not ready to do anything about state police. The second one of the state, somebody said that Jagabamba crew need power. These people, the other major tribe of Nigeria, is going to deal with us. I don't think that is going to happen. Although I need a woman, but the way I'm saying this, that's why I will be always be grateful to Are. He has done a lot of work by creating awareness, awakeness to each and every Yoruba people. So this is what I'm going to say. No matter what is going to happen, whether there is going to be something else, or maybe after Baba Tinubu left power, maybe these people may likely come after us. The only thing I think with our leaders, that's me, I'm just looking at that. Our leaders should do what is right. Our leader, there are things you can do to ward up this rubbish from. Particularly, if the people you see as a threat are never a threat to me. The major people that are threats are the Igbos, as far as I'm concerned. The major people that are threats are the Igbos. They are interested in everything we got, everything God has given to us. They want it by force.
Okay, let me ṣé mo lè explain àwọn ọ̀rọ̀ àwọn Igbos fún yín. Okay.
Earlier explain, but I jẹ́ kíkọ́ ọ̀sùn máa fún yín ní time tó máa fi ṣe. So to me ni pé if the government want to do, our state government want to do something, they should do something. There's certain things tó ṣẹlẹ̀ that we have observed. You see this land in our region. Land in our region, our state government need to monitor who buys, who they are selling to. And once, if you want to sell your land, the state government should be able to buy that land off from you. Then they should be able to control all of those things. And then even if somebody, the first owner, or the first ownership of a land is from other tribe, if you want to sell it, government should wait in to buy that land from them. That is how to control people. When they discover that they can buy, they can sell land to themselves, because that's what they do here. Once they gets to anywhere, they are able to buy land from maybe having their own building. The next thing they will do, maybe eventually, maybe they are going or they want to resell the land, they sell it to themselves. You don't get, and that has been the way they spread in our land, and that can be stopped if our leadership or our leaders are sincere. If they want to do the right thing, they should stop them, and that is one of the things I feel that can checkmate these aliens from, I don't know, because we don't have anything together. Our language are not the same. There's nothing that is close that make us to have anything doing together, except this country named Nigeria. Oh, that is under the fact that we can do a lot of things to stop them, because their high is just everywhere, every part of our land, they are everywhere. So that's my own contribution. Maybe if I want to say anything to enlighten me or enlighten the rest of us, so I will be listening. Thanks, sir.
Ẹ ṣé púpọ̀. Ẹ ṣé o, Olódùmarè ó wà pẹ̀lú ẹ̀yin náà o. Ẹ kú ìfẹ́ o. Dáadáa yín ò ní bàjẹ́ o. Iwájú lẹ máa lọ o. Bẹ́ ṣe ń fi ìfẹ́ àti ayọ̀ tẹ́ fi ń bá tiwa ẹ̀fú lò. Ọlọ́run ò ní gbàgbé ẹ̀yin náà o. Ẹ ṣé o. Ẹ ṣé o. Ṣé wà ní ibo lẹ ń gbé? Ṣé Ìbàdàn lẹ wà b'Èkó?
Èkó lọ bí mi sí Èkó ni mo ń gbé o.
Mo fẹ́ kán fún yín ní free ticket ní láti wá sí conference wa ní June, global conference.
Níbo níbẹ̀?
Ní Unilag láti máa ṣe.
Níbo kílẹ̀ pé?
Unilag.
Ṣé lẹ́kọ̀ọ́ ni?
Bẹ́ẹ̀ni.
Ọdún rẹ̀.
University of Unilag.
Unilag.
University of Lagos, Unilag.
Okay. Mo ti gbọ́ dáadáa sí ẹ ṣe. Okay.
Ẹ mẹ́sẹ̀gì Madam Àjọkẹ́ kan gba orúkọ yín. We have very limited space. So from me, màá fún yín lẹ́yọ̀kan.
Ẹ ṣé gan ààrẹ, I will appreciate it, sir.
Ẹ bá mẹ́sẹ̀gì Madam Àjọkẹ́.
Message wọn.
Kẹ́kọ̀ọ́ orúkọ yín fò. Ẹ ṣé o. Ẹ dárúkọ mi. So màá gbà, màá fọ́ọ̀dẹ̀. Ẹ ṣé o. Ẹ ṣé o. Ọlọ́run wà pẹ̀lú yín. Ẹ jẹ́ kí wọ́n dá ìbéèrè yín.
Okay.
Ṣé mọ̀ pé mo ti ń avoid ọ̀rọ̀ àwọn ará bí? Mi ò fẹ́ máa sọ púpọ̀ mọ́.
Ààrẹ ẹ ṣe ní ṣókí, tẹ́ bá ẹ ṣe ní ṣókí kẹ́ ṣe ẹ summarize ẹ.
Okay. Ṣé rí àwọn tẹ́ ń bú yìí, wọ́n ń ṣe tó yẹ kán ṣe lẹ́ẹ̀kan ṣe yẹn. The Igbos are doing what needs to be done. They are not stupid people. They are not crazy people. They are very ambitious people who understand geopolitics. Britain create ọ̀nà méjì náà pín Nàìjíríà sí. Northern Protectorate and Southern Protectorate. Àwọn Awólọ́wọ̀ náà break it out yẹn to the Western Protectorate. Igbos never wanted a broken South. Ẹ rí i pé wọ́n try láti push the Southern Nigerian Republic. Ìgbà tó rí i pé kò sí agenda ń bẹ̀, òun náà jáwọ́ ń bẹ̀. They wanted to use handshake across the Niger and use some of our elites to be doing bí South Sudan ṣe break àti Sudan òun náà fẹ́ push ní Southern Nigeria, ní Nigeria. And that's why you see àwọn lobbyists in America, they are creating one narrative. North Muslim versus Southern Christians. Meanwhile, there are nothing close to 30% of the South are Muslims, especially half of Yoruba land are Muslims. So, but the agenda buruku Muslim versus Christian. Láti gbé wọ̀dọ̀ wa. Secondly, they wanted to push this agenda. This agenda of wípé bí Fulani ṣe dominate North, làwọn náà gbọ́dọ̀ dominate South. It's common sense. Tẹ́ ẹ bá ti ní a confederal arrangement tó jẹ́ pé winner takes all ẹ̀ ń lò, there needs to be a superpower in the North and there needs to be a superpower in the South. So Britain ti fún Fulani ní agbára ní North. Britain dẹ̀ fún Igbo ní agbára ní South as our independence. So if you look at the power structure, Igbo ní president, Fulani ní prime minister, Igbo ní senate president. Yoruba were nowhere to be found. So wọ́n dẹ̀ mọ̀ pé táwọn bá fi yín sílẹ̀ kẹ́ di western region yín yẹn mú, southwest yẹn mú, ẹ lè mọ̀ tí counter offensive against àwọn, so kò gbọ́dọ̀ rojú, kò gbọ́dọ̀ ráyè. Ṣé Tinubu jẹ́ kẹ́ DC omi? So fi PDP lọ́rùn sílẹ̀, wọ́n wá ka mọ́lẹ̀. So the same ideology ni. They have an ambition of dominating the entire coast of West Africa, entire southern Nigeria. So naturally, Igbo ní problem pẹ̀lú Fulani. They see Fulani as equals, while they see you as a threat to their domination. So your language is a threat, your women are a threat, your culture is a threat, your civilization is a threat, your presence is a threat. And they have a lot of willing tools in our midst. So that is why they are doing what they are doing, which is why they hate any form of Yoruba nationalism and Yoruba consciousness. So that is what TYF, what we've done in TYF is not to sit back. One is to solidify and fortify the Yoruba space with Yoruba nationalism. God has helped us to do that. Secondly, it is to project the Yoruba nationalism and Yoruba renaissance into the satellite and frontier states like Delta, Kogi, Edo, and Kwara. So, torí ẹni gbogbo resources wa apọ̀ ẹ̀ sí the frontier states, while also seeking alliances with the Middle Belt and South-South nationalists. So, which has actually helped us. Gbogbo àwọn gimmick wọn, games wọn, we are pushing against it, using their women for infiltration and all those things, and religious brotherhood. And you can see all their expansionist moves in South Africa and Ghana has failed woefully. So they are back to square zero. When they are back into the era of Zeke. But fortunately for us, God raised institutions and many young men and women that can be able to fight this war of narrative. So, adúpẹ́ bí tá a bá dé o, a dẹ̀ dúpẹ́ bí tá a ń bá lọ. But there's a lot of work to be done. So, there can only be one superpower in the South, we or them. And it is going to be us.
Along.
And we are not just staying, we are going into the middle belt. We must be critical stakeholders in the middle belt. We are not just sitting down, we are going into the South-South. The Yoruba civilization is the most powerful civilization in the South-South. So we must also be there. And in time, many people, the first sorrow, initially, many people have reached out to me. Are we are kind now in politics, Nigeria now. We are kind now that position. We are I'm saying this openly. I get a lot of. I know people are very, very passionate. And they feel like what is happening. I regulate tell you know city boy movement. Greater you know to look back position l'Abuja. Ejo jẹ́ kí n jó ilé sanmi dùn joyè lọ. Oúnjẹ tí mò ń jẹ, tí mo rà ń jẹ, tí mo rà ń manage family mi, ó ti tó mi. So that mi ò ní ṣe mistake táwọn Bọ́lá Ìgè ṣe. So mo ẹjọ́, I know a lot of people are angry. Pé bóyá ààrẹ ni ò gbà, tó máa fi nǹkan lọ gan, ó lè sọ pé òun ni ò gbà, ó lè kíkan ni ò gbà, or he's feeling no. So that màá lè mọ wá bí lọ́sọ̀ọ̀sẹ̀ láti sọ tí mò ń ṣe. Ìjọ́ tí mo bá ti sọ pé mo ti di kìnní l'Abuja, mi ní lè sọ̀rọ̀ tán báyìí mọ́. So it is not about what we are getting, kò ń ṣe tá a fẹ́ get. It is for a battle for the next 100 years, and we need your prayers. Because the battle is not easy. We are passing through a lot, financial stress in TYF, human resources stress, and other things, Timmy the Sonita. So we need prayers. Because it is very, very difficult láti kó àwọn èèyàn jọ for a mission like this. Mission tó lé ní. Tẹ́pọ̀ àwọn alágbára gan, wọn ò tẹ̀rí sí, wọ́n sá lọ ni. Ọlọ́run dẹ̀ wà pẹ̀lú wa o. Ẹ ṣé o. I think we should bá ṣe máa fún àwọn èèyàn ní ticket. Few people randomly bóyá mi gan quiz títí tí ó fi di ọjọ́ yẹn rèé o.
Tó, kò sí wàhálà.
Ẹ ṣé o.
Yeah. Ẹ̀yin ará ilé, a máa kí yín lẹ́ẹ̀kan sí ẹ ṣeun gan pé ẹ darapọ̀ wá ní àṣálẹ́ níbikíbi tẹ́ ti ń gbọ́ wa, tẹ́ ti ń wò wá káàkiri àgbáyé. Ìbéèrè tí ó wà ńlẹ̀ ni pé tí ń fẹ́ gbogbo ká gbọ́lẹ̀ ní àṣálẹ́ mẹ́ta. Do you feel safer today in Nigeria than 5 years ago? Would you support state policing even if it risks abuse by our local politicians? And is Nigeria still one security space or already fragmented? Tonight's conversation makes one thing very, very clear. Nigeria is at a crossroads. Whether you believe in reformation or revolution, one truth stands out. The current level of insecurity is unsustainable. A nation cannot function where citizens fear the roads, the farms, and even their homes. The real danger is not just violence, it is normalizing the violence. History shows that when government fails to secure lives, people begin to secure themselves, and that is where nations either transform or unravel. So the question is no longer theoretical, it is urgent, it is practical, and it is personal. What must change and who will make it happen? We at TYF will trust in the leadership of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu he will do his best. That is why you see that the rate of attack on Nigeria as a country has not been as much as the present time. From all angles, from all fronts, Nigeria has been attacked day and night, simply because they believe that this man's dream, this man's vision, this man's reformation for this country will make them to become desolate. It will make them to become totally, annihilated. And that's why they're doing everything possible within their power to make sure they attack this government. They're not even attacking Nigeria as this government, because once they attack this government and make everywhere unbearable and unlivable, the people will hate the government and want a change of government come 2027. You'll be surprised after the elections that all these things will die down again, even without military raising one single weapon to fight this, violence in the country. But we know one thing that's very certain, and still alive, that we need to reform Nigeria, because Nigeria is a failed system. The only thing that can fix this country is the way we started. Àwọn tó tẹ fún wa ní òmìnira gan tá ń pè ní Britico, báwo náà ṣe ń ṣe? Ṣèbọn ní Welsh, ṣèbọn ní Scotland, ṣèbọn náà ní Britain, gbogbo wọn náà lè wà bẹ́ẹ̀ náà dá United Kingdom. Oníkàkúndé ṣe títí ẹ̀ tí ò pa ẹnikẹ́ni lára, kí ló wá dé tí Nàìjíríà ní kó dandandandandan gbogbo agbóró kó agbọ̀n ká kó apá kan sínú ṣòkòtò kan ká kí gbó ẹsẹ̀ sínú ṣòkòtò kan, wàhálà nìyẹn o. Ọlọ́run jẹ́ ó ṣeé ṣe fún wọn. We thank you very much for joining us tonight. Nigeria cannot remain like this. Thank you very much, and good night to everybody.
Ilẹ̀ wa ń sunkún lábẹ́ ìrìn, àwọn bàbá wa ń wọ́ wa lókè, wọ́n filẹ̀ yìí sí ọwọ́ wa, ṣùgbọ́n a gbàgbé ohun tí wọ́n ń sọ. À ń jagun ara wa lójú ọ̀nà, à ń ta ìtàn wa lọ́wọ́. Bí a kò bá rántí ibi tá a ti ń bọ̀, báwo la ṣe máa mọ ibi tá a lọ? Ẹ̀jẹ̀ àwọn bàbá ṣì ń pè wá nínú afẹ́fẹ́ ilẹ̀ Yorùbá. Ohùn ilẹ̀ ń ké pé má ṣe gbàgbé ẹni tí ó jẹ́. Kí a ronú Yorùbá kọ̀ọ̀kan, kí a gbé ilẹ̀ wa ga. Kí a ronú Yorùbá kọ̀ọ̀kan, kí a dá àṣà wa bọ̀. Kí a ronú Yorùbá kọ̀ọ̀kan, kí a mọ ara wa dáadáa. Kí a ronú Yorùbá kọ̀ọ̀kan, kí a pa ìtàn